On October 8, 2025, behind a quiet abandoned house on Clark Street in New Britain, Connecticut, police officers made a discovery that would horrify an entire community. Inside a large plastic storage container, they found the decomposed remains of a 12-year-old girl. She hadn't been reported missing. No Amber Alert had ever been issued. No one had sounded the alarm. Her name was Jacqueline Mimi Torres. For nearly a year, her body had been hidden, first inside a basement, then discarded like refuse. This is not just the story of a child's murder, it's the story of how a family's silence, a system's gaps, and a community's lack of visibility allowed a little girl to vanish without anyone noticing. In this video, we'll take you through the full timeline. Her life, the events leading to her disappearance, the discovery that shook investigators, the charges against her mother, aunt, and mother's boyfriend, and the troubling systemic failures that surrounded her case. Before we continue, I want to ask you all for a small favor. If this story matters to you, please subscribe, like this video, and turn on notifications. It only takes a moment, but it helps us share Jacqueline's story, and others like hers, with more people who care. Your support truly makes a difference. Now, let's get back to the case. Jacqueline Torres, known affectionately as Mimi, was born in 2012 and lived in New Britain, a small city in central Connecticut. She was described by extended family members and neighbors as quiet, reserved, and sweet. She wasn't a child who caused trouble. Like many children her age, she went to public school, had classmates, and was part of the community. Jacqueline attended public school in New Britain through 5th grade. Teachers and school officials knew her as a student. But in August 2024, just before she was set to start 6th grade, something changed. Her mother, Carla Garcia, officially withdrew her from the New Britain public school system and filed paperwork to homeschool Jacqueline. On paper, this isn't unusual. Connecticut allows parents to homeschool their children with relatively few requirements. But that single decision would have devastating consequences. Once Jacqueline was withdrawn from school, the regular eyes and ears of mandatory reporters were gone. No teachers, counselors, or administrators would be checking in. Her world grew smaller, and over the next year, she would essentially disappear from public life. Jacqueline lived with her mother, Carla Garcia, Carla's boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita, and Carla's sister, Jacqueline Garcia, Jacqueline's aunt. Each of these adults had a troubling past. Carla Garcia, the mother, was 29 years old at the time of her arrest. She had a prior assault conviction dating back to 2019 and had also been arrested for driving without a license or registration. Her boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita, aged 30, had a criminal history that included reckless endangerment and interfering with an officer in 2022. The aunt, Jacqueline Garcia, aged 28, had one of the most concerning records. She had previously been convicted of risk of injury to a child, a serious offense in Connecticut. In that prior case, medical professionals had documented multiple fractures, hemorrhages, and bruises on a baby, injuries that were in various stages of healing. She was sentenced in December 2024 to a 10-year sentence, suspended after 18 months to serve. She ended up serving about 8.5 months and was released in August 2025, just 2 months before Jacqueline's remains were discovered. At the time of the new charges, Jacqueline was on probation. Despite this deeply troubling background, all 3 adults lived together in the same household in Farmington, Connecticut, after the family moved from New Britain. There was no active agency oversight. Connecticut's Department of Children and Families, DCF, had prior contact with the family. Officials have acknowledged this but have not yet released the full extent of their involvement. What is clear is that DCF was not actively monitoring Jacqueline at the time of her death. In Connecticut, homeschooling laws have minimal oversight. Parents can withdraw a child, file a notice of intent, and are largely left alone. There are no mandatory home visits, no routine welfare checks, and no academic progress reviews unless someone raises a specific concern. This means that once Jacqueline was withdrawn from school in August 2024, there is no external mechanism to verify her safety, education, or living conditions. DCF has since announced an internal review. The Office of the Child Advocate has also opened an investigation, examining how oversight failed and whether opportunities to intervene were missed. This gap between school oversight and child welfare agencies would prove fatal. Investigators believe Jacqueline died sometime in the fall of 2024, just weeks or months after being pulled out of school. Prosecutors allege she was subjected to prolonged physical abuse and malnourishment while living in the Farmington residence with Carla, Jonathan, and Jacqueline. No missing person report was ever filed. No one from the household contacted authorities. No neighbors called in concerns. Her death was not discovered because someone noticed something wrong. It was discovered almost a year later by chance. After Jacqueline's death in the fall of 2024, life inside the Farmington home continued, almost as if nothing had happened. There were no police reports, no missing person bulletins, and no neighborhood flyers. Authorities say that Jacqueline's body remained inside the basement of the Farmington home for months. Investigators believe that the family deliberately kept her remains there, hidden away from the outside world. When the family moved out of the Farmington house in March 2025, they took her remains with them. This detail alone reveals the level of concealment. On October 8, 2025, New Britain police responded to reports of suspicious activity behind an abandoned house on Clark Street. A person had noticed something unusual on the property, a large plastic storage container left behind the building. When officers arrived, they opened the container. Inside were human remains. The remains were later confirmed to be those of Jacqueline Mimi Torres, the girl who had not been seen publicly for nearly a year. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner conducted an autopsy. Due to advanced decomposition, determining the exact cause and manner of death was complex and ongoing. Investigators stated that Jacqueline showed signs consistent with abuse and malnourishment, but toxicology and full forensic analysis would take time. The discovery sent shockwaves through New Britain. How could a child be dead for so long, hidden in a box, without anyone noticing? For law enforcement, the discovery immediately triggered a multi-agency investigation involving New Britain Police, Farmington Police, the Office of the State's Attorney, DCF, and the Medical Examiner's Office. Detectives quickly traced the container to the family connected to Jacqueline. Within days, they had identified the key suspects: her mother, Carla Garcia, her aunt Jacqueline Garcia, and Carla's boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita. Between October 12th and 14th, 2025, all three were arrested and arraigned in connection with Jacqueline's death. Carla Garcia, 29, the mother, was charged with murder with special circumstances, conspiracy to commit murder, intentional cruelty to a child, improper disposal of a body, among other charges. Her bond was set at $5 million. Jonathan Nanita, 30, the boyfriend, faced charges of murder with special circumstances, conspiracy, tampering with evidence, first-degree unlawful restraint, risk of injury to a child, and more. His bond was also set at $5 million. Jacqueline Garcia, 28, the aunt, was charged with intentional cruelty to a child, first-degree unlawful restraint, risk of injury to a minor. Her bond was set at $1 million. The state's attorney announced that all three cases were moved to Connecticut's Part A docket, reserved for the most serious criminal cases, including capital felonies and major violent crimes. They were ordered to have no contact with each other, and the next court date was set for November 14th, 2025. This rapid series of arrests reflected the severity of the allegations and the extensive evidence collected in the days following the discovery. In Connecticut, murder with special circumstances is one of the state's most serious charges. It can involve aggravated factors, such as the victim's age or the circumstances of the crime. While Connecticut no longer has the death penalty, this charge carries a mandatory life sentence without parole if convicted. The conspiracy charges indicate that prosecutors believe multiple people coordinated to either commit the acts leading to Jacqueline's death or to cover them up afterward. The cruelty to a child accounts reflect the alleged prolonged abuse and neglect Jacqueline suffered prior to her death. The improper disposal of a body charge ties to the concealment and movement of Jacqueline's remains from the basement to the Clark Street property. Connecticut officials have since announced multiple investigations. DCF is conducting an internal review of its involvement. The Office of the Child Advocate has opened a formal investigation into how oversight failed, especially regarding homeschooling regulations and communication between agencies. Lawmakers and child protection advocates have called for stricter oversight of homeschooling, including regular check-ins to ensure children are safe and accounted for. This case has reignited debate about how children, especially those withdrawn from public systems, can fall through the cracks. As of now, the criminal cases against Carla Garcia, Jonathan Nanita, and Jacqueline Garcia are ongoing. The medical examiner's final report on Jacqueline's cause of death has not yet been released publicly, but investigators continue to gather forensic, digital, and witness evidence. Jacqueline's surviving siblings have been placed in state custody. The case has drawn national attention because of its disturbing details. A young girl withdrawn from public view. A death that went unnoticed for nearly a year. A body hidden in a box, and a system that missed her entirely. According to court-released warrants, Carla Garcia admitted that she stopped feeding Jacqueline in the weeks before she died. Investigators also discovered that another child in the household had been instructed to pose as Jacqueline during a virtual meeting with DCF in January 2025, months after Jacqueline had already died. It was a deliberate attempt to fool state officials into believing she was still alive. The Department of Children and Families has since launched a full internal review of its handling of the case, acknowledging prior involvement with the family dating back to Jacqueline's birth. Officials are examining why no follow-up occurred despite years of documented risk. Lawmakers have publicly condemned the agency, saying DCF failed her. Hearings are now underway to strengthen oversight of homeschooling and require welfare checks for children who are removed from school. Meanwhile, court records reveal years of family conflict and custody battles that overlapped with Jacqueline's final months. Another red flag lost in bureaucratic shuffle. Jacqueline Mimi Torres was only 12 years old. She deserved protection, visibility, and a chance to grow up. Instead, she became invisible, not just to her abusers, but to the systems designed to keep children safe. Rest in peace, Jacqueline Mimi Torres. You're safe now. No more fear, no more pain. Until next time, keep seeking the truth. Keep standing with survivors. This is Secrets in the Shadows, where we shine a light on the cases the world tried to forget, because the truth should never stay hidden. If this story touched you, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the truth behind the headlines. Thank you for watching and for helping us give a voice to those who can't speak for themselves. I'll see you in our next video.